Hello, everyone. We are here for the third time in 2 weeks because, again, I forgot that the 3-year anniversary of this story was happening. So I admittedly rushed the last video production a little bit, but y'all didn't seem to mind because we got like 3 times as many views on that one as we normally get. Yeah. Like up to a few weeks ago, like we were getting like 70, 80 views a podcast, which is, in my opinion, pretty good for the fact that we're a self-made podcast. But for some reason, like the last three podcasts, I think, have been close to, if not over, 200 views.
Wow.
Which
okay.
I don't know entirely what prompted that, but I think one of the music videos that I made has just all of a sudden started spiking in views. Like it's up to like 2,500 or something.
I've gotten
like 20 something new subscribers, I think, from that video alone.
Wow. You know what? I bet you that the new season is over and people are wanting more, so they're getting into fan fiction.
That's probably what it is. Okay, that makes sense. I was like, the timing of this is really weird.
Yeah, because I think that's the time when people start getting into fanfics is when the season's over.
The Japanese versions of the episodes stopped airing about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, but I think a lot of people are like you and they like to wait for the English. Okay,
well, the English one finishes the same day that this video releases. But my point is that for like a lot of people do watch the sub because A, they prefer it, or B, they just want to know what happens sooner.
Yeah, that's me. That would be me if I wasn't married to you. That's same. That's fine. I'd rather have you.
Yeah, but my point is, like, the views started going up a lot, like, starting 6 or 8 weeks ago. So I'm like, maybe the season ending has something to do with it, but
yeah, I don't know.
I mean, yeah, either way, I'm definitely okay with the channel getting more views.
All right, well, let's jump into some reviews.
Yes.
All right,
we had the funeral chapter last time.
Okay, so we have Lexi the Bat.
I think this one is either new or I'm guessing it's a girl.
I don't know. Who knows?
Whoever there, they may have put up a review like way back in some of the earlier.
Okay.
chapters.
Okay. Cool.
But if not, welcome.
Cool. All right. So this is Kurai and Mina's daughter, right? I'm not the only one thinking this, am I? Just need to figure out how she time traveled.
I don't think you're the only one thinking that.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
we're
gonna find out this identity pretty soon. Yeah. So let's see. Thank you, Lexi the Bat.
Thank you.
All right, Light Hero Kaiser. God damn it! How can someone cry this much every time? I feel like Izuku for crying out loud. Oh, same buddy. Stop making me cry. Takes a deep breath. Anyway, most interesting, great chapter, mate. Can't wait for more. Kaito, for crying out loud, you're going to make a pun about crying?
Light. Oh, shut up for once. Hold the left hand.
Kaito, make me, turns pale as he sees a red mark-like tattoo on Light's hand. Oh no, not one of them.
By my command, Seal's caster attack Kaito.
I hate you.
Blade, Hero, Light, and Bow Hero Impact signing out. Yeah, dude, I don't know what to tell you. I don't understand any of these references.
But hey, I mean, anytime a character reveals a glowing mark on their body, something is about to go down.
Something's about to go down, but something's about to go down. That doesn't always mean that it's going to go well for the caster. If the eyes start glowing, then you run.
Go to the Avatar state up in here. All right, thank you, Light Hero Kaiser. All right, Joe Clone. Starting out, this is so incredibly sad. So many heartbreaking moments with everyone giving a piece to remember our fallen hero and remind them he was their friend too. I got a little choked up when it was Shuken reading Akurui's words because I could hear your acting in your voice and it just made it seem so much more real.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I put a lot into that. I put a lot into that scene. I had to few years back, I had to speak at a funeral for a guy who's basically a grandfather figure to me. My maternal grandfather died long before I was born, so I never really knew him. So this gentleman that whose funeral I spoke at, he filled that role for me. So that I kind of drew on my memories of that experience in order to try and lend a bit more to the chapter, and I'm glad that at least one person thought that it worked. Right.
She calls herself Lemillion. I see. In my mind, I didn't think she would show up like this and just wreck house.
I'm curious to think how you did expect her to show up.
She's got serious explaining to do if they manage to take her out. I doubt they would very easily, though. And I think I have a theory on what her quirk is, but I'm not saying it until I know more. Can't wait for the next one.
Okay. Yeah. In private, he messaged me. He told me what he thinks the quirk is. And it's really interesting, actually, the theory this guy.
Well,
he doesn't want to say what it is here, so I'll respect that, but I can tell you about it after we're done filming.
Sounds
this
good.
is a really interesting idea.
All right. Thank you, Joe Clone.
Thank you. Let's see. I'm going to take silver.
He just hogs silvers. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, he always makes references and stuff, and I know which ones
he knows the voices.
I know the voices.
All right. Silver 4,700. Let's go.
If I'm being perfectly honest, I don't have a lot to say about this chapter, but the main reason for that is not a lot happens here. It's just people talking. Not a bad thing with these kinds of stories, breathing room between action. But for me personally, while there were a lot of good moments with some people speaking, I was glazing over a lot of it. That would just be me, so I'm not marking it as a bad thing to criticize, just a thing to criticize. Alright, yeah, that's fair. I mean, originally, this chapter was supposed to take place like right after Deku figured out that he had Energon, so maybe I could have gone back and changed the pacing a little bit. But I got like I'll admit that I got a little bit scrambled for time with the last couple of releases. So if the quality went down, I apologize for that. That's on me for not remembering to manage my time correctly. Okay, let's see. It says also random villain. I still plan to kill her, but first I'm gonna kill you, Lemillion. Oh, see, that would be intimidating if you were intimidating. Are you mocking me? Oh, no. Yeah, one murdered villain later. Sorry about the whole killing you thing, but I know that if you look deep into your heart, which is currently all over that alley wall, you'll find a way to forgive me. Can't wait to see where this new character takes us. Have a great day, my friends. Thank you for your review, Silver.
All right, thank you.
I did not expect... that quote is heavily altered there. I expected it to go in a very different direction, but I like the one that you picked. So thank you for your review.
All right. Next we have Silly Kita.
All right. Last one.
Ooh, a double feature. Well, to put it in your guys' words, novella time.
Oh boy.
Starting things off with an angry Tensei. I like this angle. We've not seen much of him in the anime. I do like him as a character, given his history with Kurai's family. I can very easily see him moving to take actions he did, and I'm very interested to see how the Safety Commission handles all the shade that they're about to get thrown at them. I wonder if you've got some way to get Hawks in action, though. I have to say,
Hawks in on the action?
Okay. I have to say, I'm not sure who he'd side with at this point in the story. Questions for later.
That's a good point.
Mina's brother seemed kind of cool. I wish we'd had more / any time with them before this, but that's my only real gripe with this chapter. It certainly didn't stop him from appreciating the Ashido brothers. Their personalities and interactions with their sister were pretty funny and made me laugh a good deal more than the last chapter did. So we got to see a little more levity, which was pretty nice. The quirks were also interesting and well thought out, in my humble opinion, and worked quite well for showing how some abilities can come into play. My eyes are glazing over. Go ahead.
He wrote S. I'm guessing you meant to say come into play.
I'm gonna let you go because my eyes are glazing out.
Come into play in a manner that might even work against the person in their day-to-day life, i.e. if the older brother had gotten an exact replica of their mother's quirk, it would have made being a lawyer much more difficult. Just a little more of that world building we love to see. Thank you. I wanted the chapter with Mina's brothers to be a little bit more lighthearted than the one before it, but not so much so that it takes away from that mood. Let's see.
The brothers' reactions to Kurai's death were rather appropriate. It felt up till now we've gotten a good look at the emotional impact of his loss, which would naturally mix in with the shock factor. However, this is more or less a better look at what shock does on its own, without a direct emotional attachment. Sure, they liked and even respected Kurai well enough, but it didn't seem like they had an especially close relationship with their prospective brother-in-law.
Like they would have been like on a first name. They would have. I think like they kept referring to him by his second name, but I think like in person they would have been on a first name basis. But yeah, they weren't best friends. Like how do I like, because they're in a different age demographic and they've already progressed to a different point in their life, like it's a little different with Mina and Akudori, I think, because like you could see that Mina and Akudori were kind of starting to get closer. You know, who knows how that'll be affected going forward, but I think that has more to do with the fact that they are A, closer in age, and B, their goals in life align a little more closely.
Okay. I'm not criticizing their dynamic, mind you. To the contrary, I liked seeing the middle ground in terms of reacting to the news of his demise.
Okay.
They were simply stunned and trying to grasp what this development will mean for others around them, not necessarily themselves.
Okay, that's an interesting thought.
You mentioned on the podcast, but I was also surprised to realize how quickly the Shadow Nomu fight went in the second flashback. I also really enjoyed getting to see the people of influence reacting to Kai's rise to glory. These are people who have seen it all in the Age of Heroes since they have come to deal with one of the larger, yet somehow unseen aspects of the hero world, the legal cleanups.
Yeah, I'm surprised that hasn't gotten covered a little bit more than it is. Like, you know, like all the damages and stuff is just like insurance companies and stuff, you know, they're probably making bank, but
the lawyers have
the lawyers would have to be a part of all that. And I'm surprised that like we've seen how the police tie into the law enforcement aspect of heroing, but I'm surprised that we haven't seen like the legality.
Yeah, we haven't seen any legal battles up until this point. It's like, oh, you did something bad, go to jail. We haven't actually seen the legal battles, like, because I'm sure plenty of villains have lawyers too, you know. Yeah. So it's curious.
I'm sure. Well, I mean, yeah, like Moonfish, like they I think the closest thing we can come up with is like when they mentioned that Moonfish was on death row and the judges denied every appeal that he could come up with. That means he had to have some kind of representation in a court.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, like, I don't know if he represented himself and just didn't do a very good job of it, but that kind of implies that there would have to be, like, some sort of judiciary system, which would involve lawyers.
Yeah, well, there would need to be.
Yeah, so I wanted to explore on that, like, even if just a little bit more.
Sorry, I wasn't looking at you because I was trying to keep my place, and then I looked at you, and now I don't know where I'm at. There we go. To see things from their perspectives kind of got me wondering how a number of prosecution cases, there we go, might have proceeded in a superhuman society. So nice job on getting me to keep scratching my head even after the chapter was over with. Oh, nice. By the same token, it was really nice to see some of those who dismissed Kurai as a child getting a small serving of comeuppance with the victory pulled off. Even though I knew the fight had long been since covered and decided, I honestly got a little excited with the crowd when they were rallying behind the guardian hero. I certainly did not expect to see Endeavor's take on things, and while it was a short scene, it was no less powerful for it. Seeing him running all these parallels in his head while he's trying to help was enough to make me cringe. Wait, what? Am I? Did you make me feel sympathy for Endeavor? How dare you, sir? How dare? And this is coming from someone, this guy hates Endeavor, I think, more than anybody I know. So that's a good. I'm glad. I'm surprised you have. I mean, yeah. All right. Seriously though, that scene was a gut punch and a half.
Well, good.
Fat Gum trying to find the silver lining for Amajiki and the big 3 student just shooting it down over and over again honestly might have been the most depressing thing in that chapter. Ooh. I don't know what to say about what that says about me, but for some reason that interaction really hit me harder than anything else. Me too, buddy. It probably has to do with the fact that for once Amajiki's doubts have no comic relief to go with them, and wind has been taken out of that Fat Gum sails too. Either way, well done.
Nice. Yeah. I don't think that was the most depressing scene for me to write in that chapter.
Yeah.
I think either Endeavor or Gang Orca's reactions might have been. Well, actually no, because Gang Orca finds a little bit of not redemption in it, but
solace.
He finds some solace in his thought process. So I think Endeavor might have been the hardest one for me to get through.
Interesting.
Like, not because of my dislike of the character, but just because of the narrative points that I was trying to drive home.
Okay. Alrighty. I lost my spot again. I'm going to let you take... Oh, okay. There we go. Not going to lie, I low-key thought about Gang Orca's involvement. Forgot about Gang Orca's involvement in Kaya's hero journey since it's been a while. Me too, buddy. Since that happened. But seeing the big guy hear from All Might on the matter was also very sad to read. How do you keep making me feel bad for side characters? I just came here to be emotionally attacked by the crew. The main crew. Sorry, I can't see. It's really far away. And now I've got a smorgasbord of despair coming from every direction. I need glasses. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I will say that it was cool to see Gang Orca come around to his thoughts and appreciate and respect Kai before the scene was over. Put a smile on my face at least. All right, I will let you take over at this point.
Let's see. That closing scene with the mystery girl, who I am solidly convinced is either Kurai and Mina's future daughter or else Akururi's child, on Chapter 80 got me so hyped for the next chapter, and imagine my excitement when I realized I could already move on to the next chapter. I didn't get to find out who she is just yet, but we're getting closer. That closing line makes me think that we have ourselves an incoming contender for the MC role, main character role. Okay, the farewells from Class 1A were all very sweet and fit the character of each person who gave them. Bakugo's in particular was so on point that I had to laugh, even though it was a very sad scene. Maharu and Katsuma paying their respects got in the feels more than I thought it would. Seeing Katsuma determined to become a hero like Kai, and how Maharu seems ready to support his dream alongside their dad, felt like it could have been a closing scene on its own, but I'm certainly not complaining about getting more content after the fact. Well, I'm glad. Let's see. Seeing Aizawa speak twice for Kurai tells me that either he really respected his student or he's trying to work through some stuff regarding his friend that got turned into Kurogiri. The name escapes me right now, sorry. I think the name is Shirakumo. But I could be wrong on that. Yeah, maybe it's both. I want to say, yeah, he definitely felt a very genuine respect for Kurai and what he struggled through. I don't know that I consciously leaned into Aizawa's feelings regarding his dead friend concerning this matter, but that's an integral part of his character, so this is just how I felt Aizawa would react in this situation, and I guess bad on me for not taking into account the different things that would have played into those reactions. So that's my bad. Let's see.
But it's kind of open to interpretation too, so it works. See, art school 101, just own it if they think you did a good job. Just kidding. At least you're honest.
I try to be, yeah. Yeah. I haven't lied about anything.
You've intentionally
I don't tell them everything, and I withhold certain truths, but when it comes to pass, I don't lie about stuff. Let's see. Seeing Lemillion in action against these creeps got me all kinds of hyped all over again. Whoever she is, this girl does not care to hold back when it comes to dishing out punishment. Also, if she really is from the future, I'm guessing that Togata had something to do with her hero training, based on the name she's using and the red cape she's got going on. Yeah, hold on to that thought, man. Nezu low-key roasting Kurai's bullies at his funeral was something else that made me laugh more than it probably should. Just the idea that he's more or less telling everyone who made Kurai's life unnecessarily difficult that they suck in a social setting where there is literally no way for them to defend their actions without confirming that they are, in fact, garbage piles claiming to be human beings was hilarious. If he and Akururi ever got in the same room, something tells me that humanity would not be ready to handle the levels of sass and passive aggressiveness that would result from such an encounter.
Oh, just you wait, friend.
Oh man, somebody's gonna like this. Someone's gonna like the next arc a lot, I think. Let's see. Mina's farewell right after Shuken/Akururi's was actually a tearjerker for me, which is kind of impressive given that I thought I had exhausted all possible sadness by that point in the chapters. Oh no.
You're just torturing people at this point, honey.
It was your idea to do the 2 flashback chapters.
No. The thing that I said was I felt like you moved on from his death too quickly and you needed some kind of segue. I didn't say sit down and write 2 chapters of tear-jerking pain. That is not what I said.
Well, what other kind of segue am I supposed to go into that won't just feel like narrative whiplash?
I don't know.
Like when something that traumatic happens.
I don't know.
Like you know,
1 chapter of tear-jerking.
Yeah, but then not everybody can be covered that I wanted to cover.
All right, whatever.
Otherwise, it would have been like a chapter that was like 50 pages.
It works.
Whatever. Let's see. I was more or less expecting her to collapse without anything being said on her part, but she showed how she was able to keep up with Kurai right then. Her determination to love and support him, no matter how bad things got, really showed here, and I admire your portrayal of her for it. I think in some ways it's easier to fight alongside and watch someone you care about die on the battlefield than it is to accept that you have to move on without them. I don't think she's quite ready to move on, as it were, but she's shown that she cares more about his memory being preserved correctly than she does her own misery. So I'd call that some progress on her part, however little it may seem. Fight time! We're going to see how Deku handles Energon in battle. And it's not a fight where anybody's lives are in danger, I think. Yeah, I'll wait and let you guys figure that one out. Let's see. The way this fight is going, the way that this fight is going is what has honestly led me to believe that Lemillion could be either Hikari brother's daughter. She seems to have some kind of light-based ability that allows her to kick ass in combat enough to wipe out a handful of more than capable pros and their 100-odd angry kids who also know how to fight. That could have easily come from Kurai's genetics, but the way she fights and targets certain heroes somewhat systemically, I don't know, that kind of seems like it could have come from either brother, but my gut keeps telling me that Akudori had a hand in this. Also, I would be very surprised if Mina was pregnant at this point in time. I mean, I certainly believe that it's possible, but I don't know, something about that just doesn't seem right to me. Interesting thought either way. I think he's the only one who's theorized that she's Akudori's future daughter.
No, the other
was there another?
The first
reviewer said that it said Kurai and Mina's future daughter.
I thought that somebody else said that.
I think it was in another review earlier on.
Oh, okay.
But I don't know. Let's see. Either way, I'm excited to see how Lemillion wrecks the rest of the heroes, or how they restrain her. Either way, best guess / spitball idea right now. She's trying to get to Kurai so that she can somehow extract One for All from his body with a techno what's-it that future Akudori Deus Ex Machina'd for her before sending her back in time. Although, if he could do that, why not just send her back far enough to save his brother? Wait. Now I'm just confused! Happy 3 years to Your Hero Academia. I'm looking forward to what the next few years hold for this altered universe that you've built. P.S. Yes, that was me as the unnamed guest last time. Sorry about that. I forgot to include my handle before I sent the review. Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, no worries, man. I mean, you present yourself in a consistent enough manner that I mean, we were pretty much able to figure it was you. But, yeah. Oh, man. Yeah, so everybody's excited. It seems like everybody's excited for this next chapter. I've been very excited for this chapter for a while.
He's giddy over here. I too am.
You're the one making the popcorn and waiting for the reviews to start coming
I know.
in.
I literally am preparing a GIF for the Discord. I need to find the one I'm thinking of. So.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you very much for your reviews, and thank you for supporting us for 3 years on this story. Let's see how the next year takes us.
Let's do it.
And let's start it off with a bang, shall we?
Sounds good.
Start to fall as it turns to a pour. We're here again in this storm, but we've been here before. I see the street signs warning, telling me that I have no other place I could go. Feel like I'm stuck in motion, can't find balance. I'm living in a vertigo. Everything is nothing like before. I've tried to hold it together.
sole purpose. The intruder that had attacked Yue was currently on the defensive against Hado and Amajiki, the big three, using unbelievable speed and strength to evade octopus tentacles and energy blasts from multiple sides, all while knocking flat any of the other heroes who made the mistake of getting too close to her in an effort to assist their peers. Most of the time, they couldn't even see where the intruder was, only where she had been. Whenever she did appear clearly, she was trailing some kind of white energy as she delivered concussive blows to her opponents. After about half the students had been knocked down in this manner, Amajiki grunted out, "All of you need to stay back. We can't go all out with you getting in the way, and she's just picking you off. Let us handle her." "He's right," Ida shouted as he held back Kirishima and Kaminari from charging in. "All of us should wait for an opening at a distance. There's nothing we can do at the moment." Despite these words, he worried for their upperclassmen. Whoever this girl was, she had single-handedly demolished most of their strongest classmates and knocked down all their teachers in less than 2 minutes. He had the feeling that even Kurai and Togata would have had a hard time against this new threat, and even though Izuku had their late friend's powers now, he didn't know how to use them very well. "Ah!" Kirishima growled as Amajiki's body began to rapidly transform before their eyes. "I hate not being able to help them. This is just like our fight on Nabu." "Perhaps, but we cannot rush in simply because we feel frustration," Tokoyami murmured, dark shadow hovering over his shoulder at the ready. "For now, let us observe. Perhaps our assistance will not be necessary." "Vast hybrid! Chimera Ent!" Amajiki shouted as his body doubled in mass, his skin hardening into bark and his muscles transforming into thick wood, courtesy of an apple he had eaten that morning. From his back, the wings that he had sprouted grew even larger and swept him up in the air, giving him an edge in height over the girl, who was now recoiling from a grind wave delivered by Hado. Moving in faster than one might have expected with someone of his mass, Amajiki charged at the evasive girl, reaching out with his hand to ensnare her in a thick barrier of roots and grapevines before crashing into her with the full force of his bulk and momentum, sending dust and snow up in the air around them in a teeth-jarring impact that others around them could feel from several yards away. When there was no sound coming from within the cloud of white, Hado edged closer and asked, "Tamaki, you okay in there?" "Yeah," he answered, filling everyone around them with a profound relief. "I've got her under foot." "Wait, what?" Ah! The transformed hero flew out of the snow cloud and crashed into Hado, pinning her beneath the crushing weight of the semi-conscious boy with a cry of surprise. "What happened?" Kirishima cried out as the snow around the intruder dissipated to reveal the girl getting to her feet and brushing the shrubbery out of her hair and cape. "What's that girl made out of?" "Guys," Izuku said from behind them in a low tone, determination in his voice, "I need you to buy me a few seconds. I'm going to try something, and I haven't had a lot of practice with it yet." "While they're doing that, I'll lend you a hand," Weiss said as she stood beside Ida, the rest of her teammates having already been knocked out. "I think I have an idea of what you're up to, and I'm better suited to lending long-range support since I don't have my sword on me." "Thanks," the brunette replied as he cupped his hands by his ribcage. "We got you, buddy," Kirishima said as his body hardened. "Let's go! Dark Shadow!" Tokoyami shouted as he sent the creature forth, causing their assailant to speed away from them, giving Ida time to unleash his Recipro Turbo and go running after her. Ojiro and Todoroki also joined the fight, all of them moving to come at the girl from different directions. None of them really expected to win the fight, but if Izuku had a plan, it was probably their best option to play their parts. The girl's eyes flicked in several directions in the instant before she moved again, backhanding Dark Shadow toward its master before she ducked a full-speed roundhouse kick from Ida, followed by a straight shot to his stomach that caused him to vomit his breakfast onto the snow. She finished him off with a blow to his leg that hyperextended the limb, causing him to scream in pain and collapse where he was, incapable of fighting any longer. This freed her up to deal with Ojiro, which she did by grabbing his tail and using it to upend him, slamming his head into the ground hard enough to render him insensate, then tossing him at Todoroki, who had to slow himself in order to catch up his comrade, which proved to be a mistake. The second that his attention was diverted from the girl, she darted forward and clubbed him over the head while he was busy trying to catch his friend, causing them both to crash on the ice that he had conjured. Dark Shadow was on her again, so she evaded its claws and kicked up snow in the face of Kirishima, who had arrived in time to try and get a sneak attack on the girl, to no avail. Tetsu almost got her from the opposite direction, but his metallic form glinted even in the dim light, so his approach had not been the stealthiest one, which she turned to her advantage when she grabbed him by the foot and swung him like an oversized bat to knock Dark Shadow away, followed by a devastating blow to Kirishima's head that knocked both him and his rival out cold in the snow among their beaten allies. "She's persistent," Tokoyami muttered as his quirk's manifestation returned to him. "I don't have much left in me, so I hope you're ready, Midoriya." "I am." He nodded as the gold-white hex that Weiss had created disappeared from beneath his feet, a bright green orb shining between his palms as he sighted the intruder, who was now making short work of a group of sophomores that had tried to coordinate with her against her speed by cornering her with some kind of electrical quirk in tandem with a crystal barrier, which she promptly shattered with a swing of her arm. I've set up some redirecting hexes, but you'll have to maintain concentration on the power, Weiss warned him as the sweat beaded on her brow. If you slip up, the attack will fizzle out, and then there's nothing I can do for you. I appreciate it. Izuku nodded as the verdant orb flared brighter. Let's go, Schnee! He flung his arms forward, shouting, Kamehameha! A green laser blasted toward the intruder, who predictably used her speed to evade the attack. But this time the heroes were ready for it. One of Weiss's blue hexes appeared in front of the laser at an angle, absorbed the light, and then spat it at the assailant, who seemed surprised for the first time since the battle had begun. She was still able to dodge the attack again, but when she did, another Azure hex redirected it at her. Meanwhile, Izuku and Weiss were straining to keep their powers going, waiting for the girl to slip up and get hit. It was becoming like an endurance contest, one that the heroes were more than likely to lose unless someone else interfered. Fortunately, there were a few among the remaining heroes who knew what needed to happen, and they acted accordingly. A third year with a geokinetic quirk slammed his fist into the snow, causing spikes of stone to erupt from below, aiming to either impede the girl's path or wound her directly. Another unleashed an astral projection of herself that would take over the girl's body if it managed to connect, while Subaraba from Class 1B spat out air discs in an attempt to restrict her movement. All of this was serving to make it more difficult for the girl to evade Izuku's laser, but instead of panicking like they hoped she would, she just got mad. All right, that's it! She grunted as she lashed out with a roundhouse kick that pulverized the stone spikes and sent the chunks flying at the other students, forcing them to scatter. She then hit the ground, sprung back up into the air, and started using the air discs to ricochet around the astral projection and the laser that was still following her while heading toward the student that had shifted the stone to begin with. Something about the way she had dodged sparked a recent memory in Izuku's mind, nearly making him lose concentration, but he forced himself to save the analysis for after they had subdued the mystery girl. The third-year student tried to conjure a stone shield with his powers, but the girl just punched through the rock and knocked him flat. Still, it made her stop in place for a second, which was what Izuku and Weiss were hoping for. The green Kamehameha that was upon the girl. And for a split second, the two freshmen were certain they were about to get a solid hit in. Then a ripple of white light covered the girl's right arm and she barehand smacked the laser away from herself with a violent burst of concentrated air pressure, and right into the largest cluster of remaining students, swallowing them up in a brilliant, if small, explosion that left them scattered like groaning bowling pins. Weiss and Izuku both paled in fright, until the boy noticed something odd about the girl as she surveyed the destruction of his laser. She was clutching at her arm as if in pain while she staggered back a few paces, her face turned away from theirs for the moment. Wait, that looks like... There was a flash of warm golden light that made the onlookers avert their gazes, and when it was gone, their attacker was standing tall and strong again. Weiss fell to her knees in the snow, her consecutive uses of the more complicated hexes having exhausted her quirk and putting her out of the fight for the time being. There weren't many students left standing, and of those who were, Izuku only knew Kaminari and Sato, neither of whom he had much experience in fighting alongside. Gritting his teeth, he sent his new quirk surging throughout his body, knowing that if he was going to have a chance at beating this girl, it would have to be with close combat. He knew that so far such efforts had proven to be a mistake, but he just didn't have a good enough handle on using Energon's long-range properties to use them effectively in a battle yet. He may not have had a handle on the physical application as he did with One For All, but his hand-to-hand combat knowledge was still sharp. So he charged into the fray, even as the girl's eyes narrowed and she set her stance firmly into the snow. Putting as much power as he dared into his right arm as soon as he was in range, Izuku shouted, "Texas Smash!" The girl's body crackled with an energy that he could now see was some kind of bio-lightning, as she performed a swift cross-block that knocked his heavy blow to the side, diverting force away from her body. She went to follow it up with a back fist that would collide with his shoulders, but he got the jump on her by firing a laser from his fist to check his momentum and throw an elbow in reverse with the same arm that she had knocked him away. This time, she caught the blow with her hand and kept him in place. As she kept a firm grip on him, Izuku felt something eerily familiar coming from the quirk powering the mystery assailant, and his verdant eyes widened as they met with the girl's red ones. They disengaged, leaping away to be about 10 feet from one another, both of them breathing heavily, steam erupting from their mouths in tandem with their exertions. "You," he heaved. "Why? How do you have that power?" He thought that he might be imagining things, but the feelings of nostalgia were too strong for him to dismiss the suspicion that had formed in his head. That and the sudden change in her eye color had planted the beginnings of an idea in the back of his mind. It was an impossible idea, but it persisted as the pair continued to size each other up. The girl then shook her head slightly and replied, "It'll take too long for me to explain here. I need to show you why I have it before anyone other than you will believe me. Izuku's breath caught as he realized she wasn't denying his inquiry, which led to even more questions bursting into his mind, but the foremost one was, who are you? The girl's mouth twitched just the tiniest smile before she answered, just a cursed child, Deku. Those words checked Izuku like a physical blow as a gust of chilly wind swept across them, revealing the point of an ivory-colored horn protruding from the right side of the girl's head. He recoiled from the sheer force of incomprehension as his half-baked idea was immediately confirmed, which she took as her cue to leave, using her quirk to give her speed that turned her into an electric-riddled blur that swept past the remaining heroes before they could muster one last defense. Crap, she's getting away! Kaminari shouted as they watched her zip toward the gym. He started to run after her, saying, We gotta catch up! Wait! Everyone was surprised to see Izuku holding up a hand to indicate that he didn't want any of them to pursue just yet. I think I know who she is, and why she's here! The mystery assailant charged into the gym to find only a handful of heroes and one student looking down at her from the stage, the coffin behind them. I suggest you give up now. Gang Orca rumbled from next to Present Mike and Midnight. We won't take it easy on a child as strong as you clearly seem to be. The gym had been evacuated of all the other students, so the pros didn't have to worry about collateral damage if another fight broke out. Okay, if the 100-odd Hero Course students and pros outside couldn't stop me, what makes you think you're going to do it? The girl quipped. Don't underestimate us, Mina said as acid coated her arms. You picked the wrong day to fight UA High. She hadn't left the building, having had a hunch the attacker might try to come for the gym, though whether or not Kurai had anything to do with it was yet to be seen. The girl, instead of looking annoyed, gazed at Mina with what seemed to be sympathy before she said, I'm only here to help you. I promise I don't want to fight. Then why'd you throw down with everyone else outside? President Mike demanded. I'm not buying it. What I've come to do can't wait for the normal processing pace for being allowed on campus, the girl replied calmly. I needed to get here now before you take Kai to be buried. Why is that? Midnight asked as President Mike started to sidle away from Gang Orca. Because I'm going to save him, the girl answered seriously, causing all the heroes to pause in place. Well, all but one of them, that is. Acid bullets! Mina shouted, sending bolts of vicious liquid at the girl, who sped away from the dangerous substance, her eyes wide in surprise. How dare you, the girl was saying as her whole body shook with fury. There is no saving him. He's gone. Not even Recovery Girl could have helped him, and she's the best in the world. Now you're here to what? Mock us? Get lost before I turn you into a puddle. Before the girl could make a reply, Gang Orca and Present Mike combined their sound attacks to aim for the intruder, whose eyes widened as she realized that even she would be in trouble if she was hit by the powerful sonic waves. White energy crackled along her arms as she smashed them into the ground, sending massive stone slabs into the air to intercept the powerful sound waves and keep them from hitting her, as well as obstructing her opponent's field of vision with the concrete chunks and resulting dust cloud. She waited 2 seconds for the sound to die away before she shot toward the wall at high speed and used it as purchase to send herself flying back toward the pro heroes, who were startled by her sudden appearance in their midst. Moving even faster now, she punched Gang Orca in the snout before she decked Present Mike and Midnight. Next to go was Cementos, who she took out by grabbing a dazed Gang Orca and throwing him at the blocky hero, sending them both crashing off the stage and into the dust cloud that was still settling. That left Fat Gum and Mina, who had leaped onto the stage to put herself between the attacker and Kurai's coffin. She dealt with the BMI hero by using his own bulk against him, rather than using brute strength, knowing that such a tactic would be ill-suited for use against a man who could absorb an insane amount of kinetic force and then throw it back in one condensed blow. She waited for him to try and grab her up before she dove underneath his legs and kicked him behind his kneecap, sending him falling on his head off the stage, where there was very little fat for him to use as a cushion for the fall, and thus removing him from the equation. Only Mina stood between the girl and her target now. I'm warning you, the pink girl said in a shaky voice with a desperate hatred in her caramel eyes. Last chance to back off or I really will disintegrate you. The League of Villains can have Kurai's body over my dead one. The mystery girl gazed at the heroine once again with sympathy while saying, I'm not here to hurt you or Kai, but I will move you aside if you don't let me through. Try it. Mina dared her as her entire body was suddenly coated in a thick layer of acid that caused the wood she was standing on to hiss and melt as soon as it made contact. How are you going to fight me if you can't even touch me? The other girl's eyes narrowed before she sped to Mina's left, right at the edge of the stage, and drew her right arm back while she crouched, lightning crawling across it. Detroit? Mina's eyes widened from behind her acid avatar as the girl's stance struck her as incredibly familiar. It couldn't be. Smash! Without even touching her, the girl's uppercut delivered a concussive blast of wind and lightning that sent Mina flying into the rafters, where she hung helplessly, barely clinging to consciousness, and her acid having been incinerated by the electricity in the attack. Meanwhile, the girl doubled over in agony as her right arm turned an ugly shade of red-purple. A moment's thought from her was enough to undo the damage, but that never made the exertions hurt any less when they happened. She tiredly shuffled toward the coffin and pried open the lid, breathing a huge sigh of relief when she saw that the body was still in the container. I made it, she thought as she placed a trembling hand on the boy's cold brow, tears running down the sides of her face as she realized her seemingly impossible goal was really within her grasp. Time to wake up, she murmured as the horn on the side of her head suddenly increased its size in tandem with the white lightning that began to fill the air around her. The world still needs you, Kai. The doors to the gym crashed open, admitting the students from outside that she hadn't knocked out. Led by Izuku, who held up his arms to keep the others from advancing any further. Do it! Do it! He called out, seemingly to the surprise of his peers, though he kept his eyes focused on the girl on the stage, who gave him a tear-stained smile of gratitude. Thank you, Deku, she said as she looked back down at Kurai, who remained in the clutches of the eternal slumber. Now to repay every kindness that you two ever gave me. She drew in a steadying breath and then unleashed the full extent of her powers into the single target in front of her. One for all, 100%! Rewind! Soul restoration! Kurai's body was enveloped in a cocoon of white lightning and a golden luminescence that was so bright it forced the onlookers to avert their gazes. The air around them shuddered and warped, sending an unnatural tingle throughout their bodies as they bore witness to a power unimagined. It seemed to last an eternity, and when the light faded, they were almost afraid to look for fear of what the glow might do if it were to return. When they did manage to work up the courage to look, all they saw was the intruder, breathing heavily over the coffin, the energy having been dissipated from her body. Izuku moved first, clearing the gym in 3 leaps, landing next to the girl just in time for her to sag and fall over backwards, utterly spent. Instead of pinning her in place like the others expected him to, however, he cradled her in his arms and knelt so that she could rest easily while she tried to catch her breath. Are you okay? He asked her as she kept her eyes shut tight. Yeah, she nodded weakly as Mina leaped onto the stage, having made her way down from the rafters. Check on Kai. He didn't wake up, but I could feel him. Izuku, what the hell is going on? The pink girl demanded in a shaky voice. Who is this kid, and why does her power remind me of One for All? Because I have it, the girl mumbled, her body trembling as the beginnings of a fever began to overtake her. Please make sure that Kai is okay. I've never done that before. Do what? Mina asked frantically, still unable to comprehend what was going on. What did you do? The girl cracked open her muted crimson eyes to look blearily at Mina and mumbled, I rewound him. His soul. If I did it right, then he's alive again. Those words stopped both Mina and Izuku in their tracks. Rewound? Mina repeated even as her body started to move toward Kurai's coffin, almost of its own accord. How could you... I thought you had... Mina, this is going to sound crazy, but... Izuku looked down at the shivering girl in his arms as he said, When I was fighting her, when I came into contact with her quirk, I sensed something familiar. She has One for All. And the reason she can rewind people is because she's Eri. Our Eri. Mina's wide eyes swung around to look at the girl while her trembling fingers met Kurai's neck. She noticed 2 things in that moment. The first being that the girl in Izuku's arms had a long horn protruding from her head that was the exact same color and shape as the girl in Yue's charge. Even if the hair color was wrong, a close look showed that the general shape of her facial structure certainly lined up with that of the little girl in Aizawa's charge, not to mention that the placing and structure of the horn was unmistakable. The second thing she registered was that her cold fingers had encountered warm flesh, and she could feel a pulse beating steadily beneath the skin. As that second fact began to sink in, she slowly turned her head to look at Kurai, whose cheeks were no longer gray and pale. His chest was rising and falling steadily as he took in the deep breaths of a peaceful sleep, while the familiar sound of his gentle whistling that had accompanied Mina into the realm of sleep many times now could be heard coming from his partially open mouth. Her hands flung up to her mouth as she let out a strangled choking sound that alarmed Izuku. Mina? he asked worriedly. What's wrong? He's... She stuttered, her mouth not responding the way that she wanted it to. Kurai is... Her breath suddenly caught as a pair of dark eyes flashed open from within the coffin and stayed unblinking for several seconds, long enough for her to see that they had changed from a deep brown to an onyx shade almost as dark in the sclera as her own eyes. Letting out a shaky breath, Mina started to ask, Kurai, are you... Ah! With a wild shout, the coffin was blasted apart and rocketed toward the ceiling at a speed that rivaled the intruders. Only... he didn't stop at the ceiling, smashing his way through the metal and concrete above them, showering the onlookers below him with debris. Mina used her acid to intercept the larger pieces, while Izuku moved to carry the apparently older Eri out of the danger zone. Once they were safe, the pink student rounded on the other girl and demanded, What the hell is happening? Why did he take off like that? What'd you do to him? I don't know. Eri shuddered as she fought to remain conscious. I've never brought someone back to life who was dead for more than a few seconds. And I've never done it on purpose before. With that, she succumbed to her exhaustion and passed out. Mina, Izuku said in a clear voice that cut through the confused panic that was threatening to overtake the girl. We need to go after Kurai and try to get him to calm down. If he's on the loose with my old quirk, he could do some serious damage to others and himself if he's not in his right mind. We can ask Eri whatever we need to do once that's happened. Right. She nodded as the other students finally caught up to them. What the heck is going on? Kaminari panted. What was that explosion just now? Who cares? They finally caught the villain, gasped a third year. Let's call the office. One of the teachers should... She's not a villain, Izuku corrected him, surprising his peers again. Kaminari, Sato, can I count on you guys to look after her until I get back? Until you get back? The beefier student asked, looking just as confused as the others. Where would you go at a time like this? TLDR, this girl brought Kurai back to life, but he seems like he's not in his right mind, Mina said in a rush, causing most of their peers to drop their jaws. She's not an enemy. Brought back to... What? Kaminari sputtered. How? Don't have time to explain right now. We gotta go, Mina said as she bolted for the door, her acid shredding through her shoes as she used it to skate at high speeds across the floor. Look after her? Izuku asked his friends while he stood up with the girl still in his grasp. When Sato just nodded dumbly, he handed her over with the words, I promise I'll explain everything when we get back, but she's precious to us, so don't let anything bad happen to her. All right. Sato nodded. He might not have had a clue about what was going on, but he knew that he trusted Midoriya. If he was asking them to protect the girl, even after she had torn through the majority of Hero Corps students, it had to be for a good reason. We'll look after her, I promise. Thank you. With that, Izuku took off after Mina, leaving behind a group of very confused heroes. It didn't take long for the pair to track the other boy down. They found him in the trees, lashing out at anything within his reach as dark lightning crackled along his body, shattering wood, sending gale force winds away from himself as he screamed and babbled gibberish that neither of them could make sense of. In spite of the fact that he had been rewound back to life, his hair had retained its silvery white appearance, making it seem as though death had still not fully shed its hold on him. Also, unlike when he had first utilized One for All, the bioelectricity coming off of him was black instead of a multitude of colors. Seeing him like this was threatening to break Mina's heart all over again, but she clung fiercely to the hope that they might still be able to save his mind along with his life. What do we do? She asked as they watched Kurai demolish another tree trunk and start pounding on the stump with a foot, turning the wood into pulp mulch from the force of his strikes. I say we should just observe him for the moment, the boy answered after another windburst swept past them. If we startle him, we might make things worse, and as I am, I doubt I could beat him with Energon. There's also the fact that he's not breaking his bones every time he lashes out, which means he's already using One for All at a higher percentage that I managed to achieve without injuring myself. Yes, speaking of which, how is that Eri back there, and how does she have One for All? Mina demanded while Kurai had butted a tree with an enraged shout. There's only one of those quirks, right? It's not like All for One replicated it somehow? No, that was my quirk back there. Izuku nodded as he kept his eyes trained on his rampaging friend. I don't know the how of it, but I recognized the quirk because I could feel the presence of the past holders when I made contact with her. They didn't exactly talk to me, but they were the ones who gave me the idea that somehow she's Eri. There seemed to be more that he wanted to add, but his gaze suddenly sharpened as he said, He's slowing down. Sure enough, Kurai was now standing over a fallen tree, his foot buried in the solid wood where he had dented it, breathing hard and muttering a steady stream of nonsense. Even as they watched, the power of One for All faded from his body, leaving him to fall to his knees as he clutched at his stump of a right arm. Because his brother's prosthetic had been destroyed in his final fight against Nine, they had left the remnants of the limb bare, since a corpse had no need for a replacement arm. Slowly, cautiously, Izuku and Mina began to stalk toward their friend, ready to move at the slightest provocation of violence from the clearly unstable boy whose back was now turned to them. They were about halfway across the ruined patch of trees when Kurai let out a strangled, growling sound and clenched at his stump hard. Mina couldn't keep down a startled cry as blood began to weep from furrows that he had carved into his flesh, and she dashed forward, heedless of any danger that Kurai might pose to her. "Stop!" she cried as she skidded to a stop on her knees behind him, wrapping her hands around his working arm in an effort to prevent further harm from coming to his damaged body. "Kurai, it's okay! You're safe, you're back!" The boy immediately stilled his movements, and for a moment Izuku thought that perhaps her voice had called him back to reason. Then Kurai growled in a low tone that was colder than an icicle. "Back? Yes. Safe? Okay? No such thing in this world." Mina recoiled as if she had been stung, though Kurai remained exactly where he was, staring down at the snow and fallen trees around him. When he seemed unwilling to talk, and Mina was too stunned to formulate words, Izuku stepped forward and asked, "Do you know what happened just now?" "I was stolen from my rightful resting place and put back in this crude, broken vessel of flesh and bones," Kurai answered in the same flat tone he had used before. "Sorry if it took me a minute to adjust back to this crappy reality." "Crappy reality?" Mina repeated in a strangled sort of voice. "Kurai, what's going on with you? Aren't you glad to be back?" She seemed like she might cry, which would normally lead Kurai dropping what he was doing in an effort to comfort her. But this time he didn't even turn his head. "In a word, no," he said bluntly, causing both of his friends to flinch. "I'm not happy." "Tell me, how long have I been dead down here?" 2 weeks, Izuku answered, confused by the seemingly abrupt change in the subject. "Well then, for context, I should tell you that where I've been, time means less than nothing," Kurai said in a monotone. 2 weeks down here might well be 2,000 years up there, or maybe it was as little as 2 hours. I couldn't tell you." "What does that have to do with—" "I was at peace, standing among my ancestors and able to enjoy my hard-earned rest in a place that transcends human understanding." He interrupted, a harder note creeping into his voice. "To call it perfection would be an insult to the realm, and give the word perfection itself too much credit. I walked among heroes of all ages, and I had the time to learn secrets of everything in the universe. There was no conflict, no suffering, no fear, and no need for sacrifices. I was whole, both body and mind, and content. Now, I'm trapped in a broken vessel that cannot retain the vast majority of the memories that I have of that place, marooned among people who will resent me because I don't share in their joy that I've come back to life, all because they cannot even begin to comprehend what I've been robbed of." He then fell silent, blood continuing to drip onto the wood beneath him while a dusting of snow had gathered atop his shoulders and hair. Izuku had no idea what to say. The last time Kurai had returned from the afterlife, he had been nowhere near this level of resenting, and he had been in much worse health. Or rather, his body had been in far worse condition. This time, it seemed as though his psyche had suffered a far more savage beating than one's body would be capable of enduring. "He's almost like a different person," he thought helplessly. "Do you still love me?" The question came from Mina, who was looking at Kurai's back as if she longed to touch him, but was afraid that he might retaliate. Kurai's answer only took a few seconds to arrive, but it felt like years to Mina before he said, "Yes." She let out a long, pent-up breath before she began to shuffle forward while she said, "Then trust that I won't resent you because of things that I can't understand. You and I have never completely understood each other before. Why would that change now?" She paused before saying, "The last time we talked, you asked me to forgive you for being selfish, and I did. Now I need you to do the same for me because I don't want to let go of you again, not ever. I want to do everything I can to try and make up for what you've lost, even if I don't understand it. I know I can't understand or replace what was taken, but I don't care. Please, Kurai, let me try to take up the place of what you lost." By now, she had managed to step up so she was just one pace behind him, her shivering hand reaching out to touch his shoulder. He didn't say anything with his words, but after a few seconds, he nodded once, ever so slightly. Mina didn't give him a chance to reconsider, throwing herself onto the snow beside him as she threw her arms around him and let all the tears fall into his body as she let out a great sob that shook her whole body. For several minutes, she alternated between crying and laughing, all while snow continued to drift onto them and Izuku watched, tears falling from his own eyes as he was finally able to breathe easy, knowing that his friend, his brother, and all but blood had come back to them. Thank you, Eri, he thought tiredly before a jolt of adrenaline surged into him. Oh, right, Eri! The injured students and heroes were being looked at by Recovery Girl in the gym, while Kaminari and Sato stood guard over the girl that had attacked them, turning away anyone who tried to come near. Look, man, we're just as confused as you are, but until Midoriya gets back with the answers he promised, nobody's getting through us, Kaminari said to a second year who was trying to shove his way past them. You could be implicating yourself with aiding and abetting a villain, dude. Even if she brought back the dead guy. Do you really want to... Hey, guys, let's all pop a couple of chill pills, am I right? A familiar, cheery voice said from behind them. Whoa, Togata? Sato asked as a tall, blonde student walked up to them. Hey, guys, the senior replied with a big smile. I heard the fight was over, so I came to check on my peeps. I'm glad that Tamaki and Nejire are doing good, but how are you champs doing? Confused, mostly, Kaminari admitted as he jerked his thumb over his shoulder to indicate the sleeping girl who had caused so much trouble. Midoriya asked us to look after this chick while he went off with Ashido somewhere. I don't know what's going on, but Hikari's coffin is totally busted and they said he somehow came back to life? Oh, and she's the one who thrashed everybody. Whoa, crazy day, Togata said, looking genuinely surprised. When it seemed apparent that Kurai was nowhere nearby, he decided to ask, Hey, mind if I take a look at this girl? She's KO'd, right? Sure. Sato shrugged as he moved to let his senior through. Hey, why'd you let him through? Because Togata's cool enough not to attack a sleeping girl even if she is a villain. Kaminari deadpanned. Seriously, get lost, dude. Don't worry about it, Togata said over his shoulder as he knelt by the girl. I got this, Nagato, my man. The second year seemed mollified by this enough that he just gave the two freshmen a dirty look before walking away. Meanwhile, Togata was eyeing the unconscious girl with great curiosity, as something about her appearance was disturbingly familiar, though he wasn't quite sure what it was that was putting him off. It took him a minute, but then he recognized the horn that was protruding from the girl's head. After that, he started seeing similarities in her facial characteristics that were impossible for him to ignore. No, wait, that can't be right. He shook his head rapidly as he tried to chase the crazy thought from his head that the girl in front of him looked an awful lot like Eri, except that she was several years older than the little girl in his school's care. Besides, she had white hair, not black. Maybe this is her older sister? We don't know anything about her family, so I guess it's possible that... Oh boy. As he moved his face to get closer to get a better look, he realized that black was not the girl's natural hair color, and that in fact it had been dyed to be darker while giving way to an off-white near the roots, just like Eri's. Nope, no way, total coincidence, he told himself, remembering that he had left the little girl with Nezu before heading back over to the gym. This is not Eri. Unless... Glancing over his shoulder to make sure that no one was watching him, he then pulled up the fabric on one of her green sleeves, revealing a series of familiar scars that ran along her arms, all the way from her wrists past her elbows. Oh boy. As he set down the sleeve, his fingers accidentally brushed against the girl's cape, which was splayed out beneath her body, and it felt familiar to the former hero student. Sure, red capes weren't an uncommon fashion statement among heroes, but this one in particular had a texture that Togata had only ever encountered once before. How does this girl have my cape? Since his cape had been made with synthesized threads based on his hair, which allowed it to pass through things when he turned incorporeal, he had come to instantly recognize it by touch, since it had a unique texture to it, just as his quirk was unique to him. Granted, he hadn't worn it in quite some time, but that wasn't just because he no longer used his hero costume. He had made sure that it had gotten cleaned and repaired before he had given it to Eri as a blanket, so that it could keep her safe even when he wasn't around. The little girl treasured it, and there was no way she would have given it to anybody, much less a stranger who would attack UA. Plus, the fabric between his fingers looked as though it was getting on the old side, even if the feel of it was unmistakable. I have a lot of questions now. Kaminari, Sato. All three students jumped up and turned in surprise to see Aizawa approaching them, having been healed by a Recovery Girl. What's this I hear about you not letting the other students restrain the assailant? Midoriya said that we needed to look after her, sir, Kaminari answered nervously. He seemed like he knew her somehow. Also, it seems like she's the one who brought Hikari back to life, if you can believe it. Whether or not Midoriya does know her is irrelevant, Aizawa muttered as he drew closer. And I don't see Hikari anywhere, which just leads me to think that she has a colleague who likely stole the body. Villains have done things like that in the past, you know. She attacked our campus, our staff, and worst of all, our students. We need to have her restrained and sent to a cell before she gets a chance to escape. Just as he reached out to move his students aside, a familiar voice said, I'd rather you didn't do that just yet. This girl has answers to a lot of questions that I've got. Everyone within earshot stopped dead in place, many of them with their jaws hanging open. Alone among them, Kaminari said in an aside to Sato, "Dude, I've never believed in ghosts before, but I'm starting to consider it." "Not a ghost," Kurai said dryly as he regarded his teacher and peers with a hollow look, Mina and Izuku close behind him. "And since we apparently have Eri to thank for all of this, I'd rather get my answers before she ends up anywhere near my mother dearest."
In the shadows I've grown, in my struggles I've shown, I'll never back down for anyone. You think that this is the end, I've just begun. Through my life I've been gentle, but I know it's in my mental. Stop, need a moment, a component. I try to show it, so soft spoken. Am I broken? No. Who's my next opponent? Every moment pushes me to focus harder, show I can do anything I set my mind to. No obstacle I can't push through.
I can hear the blood pressure rising for a few of my regular readers who are also in the Discord. I know as soon as they finish this podcast, I'm going to get it in the Discord.
They're gonna rip you a new one. I never thought this chapter would come.
Oh, man!
I've been both dreading and looking forward to this.
Before anybody starts on the whole "you lied to us" thing, I didn't lie. I said he was going to stay dead. I did not at any point say for how long he would stay dead.
Why are you the way that you are? You should see his face. Yeah, man. I'm not jumping in to defend you on this one. This is all you.
Oh, man. I've been waiting so long for this.
I was mad too, guys. It's all good. But
I've been waiting so long for this.
not as mad as I am about some other plot twists later on down the road. But I got over it because I enjoy what comes next. That being said, if you can take a breath.
Oh, man. I've been holding on to this for years.
Yeah, you have.
Oh, man. I'm so happy.
He's very happy.
I'm so happy.
I'm sure some people will be happy. I'm going to be sitting with the popcorn tomorrow afternoon.
We with popcorn.
Alrighty. Well.
Okay. All right. I'll actually get into them.
We open with pretty intense battle. Jumping right in.
Yeah. So that chimera form from Amajiki, I actually came up with that because, if I'm not mistaken, so he's got the chimera kraken, which we see the most often. I believe he's got either chimera centaur or chimera minotaur. I can't remember what the other one is. Like, it's in the manga, it hasn't shown up yet in the anime.
Okay. I was gonna say because I don't remember that. I only remember the kraken.
It hasn't shown up in any of like the movies or anything yet either. But I kind of wanted to. I realized I was like, we've seen that he can in fact manipulate plant matter with his quirk. So I was like, I want to kind of try and experiment with that a little bit. So like, he still had the wings from a bird or whatever that he ate, but like his offensive capabilities and his defense that came from the wood that from the plants that he had consumed.
So we have some Hashirama cells going. Just kidding. That's immediately what my brain went to.
I should have called it Chimera Hashirama.
But I don't think he's the kind to name his moves after anime.
No,
like Kurai.
No.
So.
No, I don't think. Yeah, I don't think Amajiki is much of a nerd.
Yeah. So we have a bunch of crazy quick.
Yeah.
Ins and outs where people jump in and
we
get
see Deku
floored.
fighting with Energon for the first time, and he's clearly he's still clumsy in how he uses it, but he's picking it up.
Yeah.
Like he's like, he's already had to adapt to a superpower before. What's one more?
Oh man, I'm sure knowing Deku, he's been training every moment.
Oh, I'm
possible.
yeah. He's been training. Ida's been giving him point. Mina up to this point has not been in a place where she could help him. But Ida would have been giving him some pointers at this time.
Awesome.
So I kind of thought about opening up the chapter with him trying to train with it, but I was just like, it felt really awkward.
Yeah.
Like it really just didn't fit with the like.
It didn't need to be
I've
said.
done too many flashbacks in the last few chapters as it is,
and they're mad about that. They're gonna have plenty to be mad about here.
Oh, they're just a little bit absolutely livid.
Yeah, but we, finally Deku comes face to face with her, and he recognizes one for all.
Power. He recognizes that power.
Yeah, it's like, what is happening?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I understand the what, I don't understand the how or the why, and the who, and then the who comes along, and he's just like, I don't understand anything.
Yeah, basically.
Which, to be fair, I kind of ended the chapter before anybody really does understand anything. Just kind of cleared up the identity issue there.
And we have some information waterfall here.
That's the next chapter's for.
So no. Oh yeah, next chapter. Oh.
The next chapter I planned out, like, that's been one of your favorites, isn't it?
Seriously, one of my favorite chapters in the entire story.
Like, you were not happy with this plan.
I was mad
until I explained what happens in the next couple chapters.
Well, I think I was still mad. I
you.
was mad until you read me the next chapter.
Okay.
And then I was like, okay, I'm still mad, but I can get behind this. So, and like, again, I'm not even mad about this thing anymore because he threw a different, there's a different plot twist way the heck down the line.
Stop giving hints out.
I'm just mad, okay? I'm angry.
Be mad off screen.
Okay. I gotta harness some of that rage because I have to get it in me so I don't sit there defending you the whole time they're attacking you tomorrow. Because I said I wouldn't this time.
Okay. All right. See how it is.
It's so funny because they put me in that meme with the cat and the ladies pointing at the cat. And it's like Mataris and then Rivka just like defending everything. I'm like, I don't always do that with you.
No, she really doesn't. Like, so I worked out a plan for a while to where Kurai stayed dead. But things became so convoluted the further along that I went that I just I kept backtracking on myself. Like, and in particular, the main issue was the loss of One for All.
Yeah.
That's
what's been bothering everyone.
I needed a way to bring that back into play. And I needed to do it in a way that didn't seem like just pulling it out of my ass just because. I needed something to make it plausible. Yeah. Which will be more or less the explanation for how it happens will be more or less next chapter. But one of my earlier ideas was just to have little Aerie basically accidentally rewind him back to life, but I was just like, that's weak sauce. That's that's just Deus Ex Machina.
She would just exist him.
Pretty much.
She doesn't know how to
either it
control
would work
well.
and everybody was saying bullshit, or it would work too well and he'd just be gone. And then there's nothing. So yeah, I decided to go with, so a lot of people have been theorizing time travel aspect, and I'm sure you've got a little bit of a better idea of how that happened now. But I won't go into the details of that just yet, as that's going to be covered in the next couple chapters. Because I urge you to wait for the next two chapters because they're what turned Becca's mind around on this.
Yeah.
And they actually got her really on board with it.
Yeah. Oh man. Sorry, I'm just having to take some deep breaths here.
So let's see. So we had the bit where she tears through the rest of it. So she's done Deku confused, so she takes advantage of this. She runs inside, finishes the last of the heroes.
Mina loses her mind with fury.
Yeah, like, if
But
she
it's
had
not
taken a moment to think about it, she might have, like, at least given Aerie a chance, I feel like. But because of the grief she's been through,
Oh, yeah, no.
and, like, she's just trying to wrap her head around, like, this is the way that her world is now.
Yeah.
Like, to have anything else, like, to have even the smallest chance that it could be otherwise is just, like, she can't even let herself feel
Yeah.
that, because what if she loses him all over again?
Yeah, exactly.
So she's not thinking clearly.
And I mean, like Aizawa said, it's equally probable in their minds that it's a villain trying to steal his body for whatever freaky Nomu experiment.
Or something else entirely.
Yeah.
It doesn't even have to be the
Yeah.
League that's trying to steal his body. You know, some other villain could want his body for whatever reason. But,
Yeah, but we've got, as soon as she uses her quirk,
so
kind of takes it out of her.
Yeah, it kind of takes it out. I decided that her using both quirks at max capacity probably should do to her what it did when she, because if her quirk goes out of control, basically, she always comes down with she basically gets sick, comes down with a fever, passes out.
Yeah.
So I decided to go ahead and throw that into effect here to kind of help de-escalate the situation a little bit, just in time for it to escalate in an entirely different manner.
Yeah, so now we've got, like,
Kurai's pissed.
from beyond the grave, just like,
You guys thought that I'm sure some of you were listening to this and were like, oh great, he's gonna come back and everything's gonna be peachy keen. No, he is livid. He is pissed that he's alive
and
again. Like, there are no words to describe how furious he is at this development.
It's going to be interesting to see how much his mind has been altered at this point, because he's been in an existence in a plane that's completely different from their own, and
like he said, he like, time doesn't mean anything to them up there.
Yeah, so it's like just adjusting to being back. It's so against nature and the way things should be. And like that, with all the other freaking trauma, I think that's all just going to come flowing in. And so now we've got this person who's kind of a shell of who Kurai was. He's not even necessarily Kurai anymore in the sense that we knew him. Yeah. And so getting to know this person is going to be interesting. For me, it was hard listening to that conversation between him and Mina. Yeah. Because the tone you used in your voice is very similar to the one when you are in a really bad mood.
I did that on purpose.
And that one like hurts. Because I kind of felt her. No, like, but like Mina's concern and like the gut wrench of like being worried about someone you care about who's in that much anguish. Like, that was
the selling point for this chapter for you, right?
Well, for me, and I think it's more of a personal reason than anything else. Okay. So I'm curious to see what everybody else thinks about it. Yeah. Because I think, again, I was already upset that he was coming back to life, and I was just kind of grinding my teeth during this chapter the first time. But kind of going back to it after all this time has been kind of cool. Just kind of seeing where everybody's at.
Yeah. This one was, this one and the ones that are coming soon have been, honestly, like the planning process and like actually writing them is very rough for me, because it reminds me of a time in my life when I wasn't right in the head. So I'm having to draw from a lot of that, which, in its own way is a form of therapy for me. Yeah. But it's not exactly a pleasant thing to go back and relive all those experiences and try to create something constructive out of them. And I'm glad that I'm able to utilize those experiences in a way that I hope betters my story.
And it's not just going to make him, and he's not just going to turn into Mataris all of a sudden. No, because he's still a different person. Yes. But you can kind of see those seeds of emotion.
No, if he was Mataris, he'd just straight up like go out on a rampage against all villains right now and just start slaughtering all of them.
Yeah.
Because he's so powerful at this point. Who's going to stop him?
Exactly. So, I mean, that's not him. That's not who he is. But he's still just in this really unstable, not okay headspace. And just kind of coming back from this is going to be interesting. Meanwhile, you have Deku, who desperately needs someone to help him. And he desperately needs Deku to help him to even figure out what to do with his quirk at this point. and he's kind of necessary for everything to move forward. Like you said, like you need One for All in this story, and everyone's been like, well, what about One for All? What about One for All? How are you gonna do it? And then the answer is,
I told you I had a plan, suckers.
You kind of need it.
So you guys were not wrong. The One for All is too integral to the story to allow it to.
Yeah, I had to bite my tongue a lot.
Like maybe if I had the entire story, like beginning to end, like if I knew the end of My Hero Academia, there's a chance that I could have been able to figure out like how things are supposed to turn out and how I would be able to swing this altered universe toward a similar destination. It wouldn't be the exact same one because enough things have changed, and certainly things will not turn out exactly the same way in the arcs going forward, because like from this point forward, canon is still going to be heavily diverged, because Deku will not be getting One for All back. He's not getting it back. He was the 9th holder. His time with One for All is done. His quirk is Energon now.
Yeah.
So that's going to change. That's still like if you guys are worried that I'm like trying to relapse and backtrack into a path where like we're like, oh, I need One for All because I'm being lazy. No. Things are not, the status quo does not get restored here. Things are still going to be, like, not different in the ways that you guys probably imagine they would be, but it's still going to be very different than I imagine you would expect going forward.
It's really interesting, too, because, you know, spoiler alert, with the current arc of the anime, at least, you've got Deku kind of experiencing this, oh my gosh, like this reality check of I'm the one, because he's already had it going through his head for the whole story leading up till now, but it really hits him and just like dealing with that emotionally, and so now all of a sudden the tables have turned, and that's no longer, you know, it's not that it's no longer his responsibility, because he still feels that responsibility, and that's still the mantle he took on.
One for All and All for One have to dish it out. So it's like it's not.
So
he's not the one who's going to carry that battle through when the time comes.
Yeah. So I'm curious. Like it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see how, you know, Deku's character development is moving forward, as well as Kurai's, and see like how on earth is everybody else going to pick up the pieces too.
And for those of you curious, this does not mark the end of Phase 5. Because the theme of Phase 5 is dealing with trauma, basically. That is not about to stop anytime soon, because, like, yes, he's come back to life, but there's still a lot of trauma to be dealt with, even in that thing of itself.
Yeah, let alone everything else.
Let alone everything else that's been going on. This is not. This is not going to be a sunshine and rainbows story going forward here. Doesn't matter that Kurai came back. Things did not get any easier. In some regard, like even though One for All is back in play, a lot of things have honestly just become much more difficult. Yeah. So.
All right. Well, I think that's
about it. What did you think of the new video that I put together for the closing? The one that focuses on Eri.
Which one? Because you just showed me two. I really liked the implementation of the Scarlet Nexus clips.
Yeah.
Because they just worked. And then I don't know if the guy with the dark hair was supposed to be echoes of Kurai, or if he was supposed to be Mataris, because he could.
Akuri.
Okay.
Akuri, because the eyes were the eyes and the highlights and the hair were purple.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right.
Sorry, I thought that was.
No,
okay.
You're good. I don't know. No, like the ones that you drew were clear, but the animated clips, I wasn't quite sure.
Gotcha.
And that's just, you know, one of the things that comes along with recycling animation.
This is true.
That being said,
used the closest thing that I could find to
it was super emotional. I love the use of the Hinata fan theme.
Oh yeah, Just Begun by Divide Music.
Because you love that track.
That
character resonates with me, and that track resonates with me.
When I came up with this idea, like immediately I was like, Just Begun has got to be Eri's theme for this going forward.
No, I resonate with that character and that song, so that was pretty cool, and it gives Eri kind of a voice in this, and I'm really looking forward to them hearing her side of everything and what's going on with her. Yeah. Because her.
Oh man, all those people. I was like, everybody. I gotta say, everybody's thoughts went the way that I wanted them to.
I know. He's like, what if I started planting things? What if I tried to convince them with little hints
and pieces
that maybe they'll think she's their kid or something?
Yes,
and
and
like
it
I
worked.
can like misdirect them somehow. And I'm like, you're such a brat. But I mean, it's good though, because it did have them thinking. Like, I definitely would have been thinking that.
I will cite
reading it.
I will cite Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone as my source of inspiration for this.
Oh, yes.
Because the whole time they're wanting you to think Snape is the bad guy, and so they're throwing all these hints that like show Snape. But if you're paying attention, you know it's Quirrell ahead of time. Mm-hmm. Like I figured out it was Quirrell by the time it was the Quidditch game.
See, and I think of Prisoner of Azkaban too, because the misdirects with
that Sirius is the
Sirius,
bad guy, but
yeah.
it's Wormtail.
Yeah, and so both of those times, there's a lot of misdirects, but if you really pay attention, you can see the truth in everything. And so, I don't know, I can see that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I hadn't thought of that.
That was my reasoning for wanting to get away with something like this, and B, my inspiration.
Very cool.
Because I was like, it's been done well.
Yeah.
I want to try. I was like, I want to try my hand at this.
Okay.
And if I had just told you guys, if I had made it clear who this girl was from the beginning, y'all would have figured out what was coming out way too quickly.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was actually surprised because I almost thought with a couple of those reviews, I almost thought someone was gonna figure it out.
I thought so as well.
I was like, they were getting close.
Figured it out.
They were getting close, and I was like, ooh.
So also, I was originally gonna name this chapter Rewind, but I was like, no,
That's way too obvious.
I was like, her reveal happens in the chapter, so I could have gotten away with it, but I decided to change to Soul Restoration because I didn't want it to click for people until the moment was on them.
Yeah.
So.
Oh man, I'm almost anxious about tomorrow. I normally don't feel this way. I'm just like, okay, buddy, enjoy.
I have a plan. I'm not apologizing for it. I think that I have done.
Own it.
I think I've done what is best for the story, and I'm going to move forward with it. I understand if ends up not being some people's cup of tea, if they don't like it. I can't please everybody. Mm-hmm. Again, like I'm writing the story because I want to enjoy it, and I hope that other people enjoy it too. But I genuinely believe that this is the best direction that I can take the story.
Okay.
And I'm going to stick to that.
All right.
So, I don't know. Do you have any closing thoughts on this whole thing?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. I do
3
enjoy.
years we've been doing this.
I know, and I've been enjoying. Just looking at how your artwork has improved in the last 3 years since you started. Like watching those videos, I'm like, dude, you just cranked 2 videos out in like 2 days because we've had a crazy week. It's not like you've had time to work on them.
Yeah. So,
one
of the videos they didn't. One of the videos you're talking about, they'll see it with the next podcast.
Oh, okay.
Or maybe I'll release it by itself a little early.
Okay.
But yeah. The video that they'll have just watched was the one with Aerie.
Got it.
But I did that one. I literally put that together this morning. Mm-hmm. Like the whole thing. Mm-hmm. Like it may maybe it's a little rushed. I hope you guys enjoy it for what it is. Regardless.
You have to pick your battles when trying to do a side project and raising children and being a husband and just doing life things. So I'm always impressed because my creative projects never go very far because I choose sleep and scrolling and watching dumb kids fishing in Florida. Pinterest. Yeah, I avoid Pinterest because I know that one really gets me.
But you don't avoid dumb kids in Florida fishing with their bare hands.
That's enjoyable. I love watching them. I'm like, is he going to die from an alligator biting his head off? Is he going to find a really cool shiny fish? Who knows? Either way, I will enjoy it.
Excited those guys get over the most mundane fish.
I love it. That would be me. That would 100% be me. Just so you guys know, there's this channel called like Briggs Fishing Team or something like that, and there's like these I don't know if they're like teenagers or young college kids, but they crack me up because they just go out and like open up sewers and try to catch like fish from the sewer, and because it's Florida, they find all kinds of insane crap down there, and it's so entertaining. I don't know why. I think it's just because I grew up fishing and being obsessed with finding cool animals. But yeah.
This turned into a segue.
I'm sorry. I don't know. It's just been fun. I'm enjoying this. So sorry. Anyway, that to say, I have zero self-control, and I just watch streams instead of creating my own content. So props to you for doing all of it, and parenting and husbanding and everything.
You're the one who critiques my drawings and stuff. So
yeah,
I don't think they'd look very good if you weren't helping me out with them.
Thanks.
So.
I try not to be too nitpicky.
You're very good.
All
right, guys. Well, this has been fun. And starting from now, we'll be resuming the usual bi-weekly podcast release again, since the anniversary is now past us. So I hope you guys enjoyed this chapter enough that we will see you again for the next one. Again, for Becca, who was one of the biggest critics of this idea, the next 2 chapters are what turned her around on the idea.
Yes, definitely.
So if you didn't like this one, I would encourage you to at least give the next one a try.
Yeah. If not, thank you for
supporting us and being with us for the last 3 years. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. All right, you guys.
Have a plus ultra couple of weeks, and we will see you for the next one. Hope you have a happy Easter.
Yeah.